We're going to get back to the economic story in just a few moments. But joining me now is a great pleasure. We bring back Madam U.S. Attorney General, Ms. Pam Bondi. Madam AG, it's great to see you. I'd love to talk to you about energy prices and factories and all the rest of it, but that's not here. I want to talk to you about law enforcement. Okay, I think it's important not to forget that the dramatic success in the Venezuelan incursion, I'll call it, okay, was about law enforcement, backed up by the military. And now I'm trying to figure out international law. People say international law should stop us from doing this. UN law should stop us. How many tons of cocaine did Maduro and his henchmen put together? How many Americans were killed by the cocaine and narco trafficking that they put together and the outright killing that they did? I mean, with good reason, this was a law enforcement action, it seems to me. People shouldn't forget that, Madam AG.
That's right, Larry. And with regards to the cocaine, President Trump knows, I mean, to make our economy great, we have to be safe in our country. And these narco terrorists, which is what they are, they were importing hundreds of tons of cocaine into our country, killing our kids, killing countless thousands of Americans every single year. And Larry, you know, don't forget Maduro emptied his prisons, he emptied insane asylums, and let those people come into our country during the last administration, and President Trump stopped it. Now he is sitting in the Southern District of New York, where he and his wife, Celia Maduro, will be held accountable for their crimes. This isn't just a drug dealer. You know, he's a monster. He's a narco terrorist, and she's also charged with 3 of the counts. Larry, they supplied these drug dealers with machine guns, with grenades, with everything to further their cocaine conspiracy and what they were doing around our country. They put hits on people, murders, kidnappings, assaults, anything on anyone who stood in their way. And no longer, President Trump is going to keep America safe. And that means locking up those 2 criminals for as long as we can.
Has the Justice Department got any internal estimates? How many lives did Maduro and his wife and his henchmen cost? What did they cost this country? Between killings and contracts killings and illegal immigration gangs, MS-13 and whatnot, Trade de Agua, do we have any idea how many lives, how many Americans lost their lives as a result of his actions down through the years? Any sense of that number?
Larry, so many you probably can't quantify it, but if you wrap in all the drug, cocaine-related overdose deaths, tens of thousands each year. And like you said, remember all the TDA members that came into this country because of Nicolas Maduro. All of the TDA members, Jocelyn Nungre was killed, Claritha Daniels, of course, Laken Riley, so many more. Those are the names, you know, that have become household names because they were murdered, killed by TDA members as a result of the Venezuelan illegitimate regime, but no longer in our country. But yeah, I mean, you know, parents need to know that this cocaine is all over our country still. It's being laced with other things. Parents need to tell their kids, don't take anything from anyone you don't know. That's our public service message, because that stuff is already in our country. But we're going to keep fighting, and there are more charges on the table.
How is it? This is part of this story, part of the horrors of this story, part of the death and destruction of this story, the demoralizations of this story. How can Democrats, leading Democrats, who are not stupid people, Pam Bondi, okay? We've known them a long time. We may disagree with them on some things, but they're not stupid. How can they sit here in the last day or 2 or 3 and say that Mr. Trump should not have done this? How can they say that? Given what you just said to us here, how can they say we shouldn't have done this? Under whose aegis should we not have done this? Are we not allowed self-defense defense, it seems to me, for the United States? Is he not the commander-in-chief? Article 2 of the Constitution of the United States? I just don't understand it. Good Democrats. All right, I'm not impugning their patriotism. I am impugning their judgment, however.
Yeah, Larry, and that's why Donald Trump was elected by an overwhelming majority, because he is going to make America safe by doing things just like this that no one else would have the courage to do. He is a leader. I think the rest of the world sees it. Not only is he keeping America safe, but the whole Western Hemisphere by what happened. It was a law enforcement function bringing monsters to our country to face federal indictment for crimes that they are alleged to have committed within our country. Countless lives. And, you know, and all of these Democrats, all of us are either parents, brothers, sisters, know someone who has been impacted by the horrors of what they did. And all of these lawmakers, I guarantee you, have someone in their backyard who has either overdosed or been murdered by a TDA member as a result of the illegitimate Venezuelan regime.
You got any more indictments coming, Madam AG? Can we look forward to any more indictments coming? Is this the first round? You want to give us a hint?
Nothing is off the table. Nothing is off the table. We are going to do everything under Donald Trump's direction to keep and make America safe.
Thanks very much, Attorney General Pam Bondi, old friend. Good luck. Appreciate it very, very much. Thanks for coming back on the show.